What is up, YouTube? So today I'm back with some master games, and we're going to continue the theme from last time. Sorry for a long break, by the way, but we're going to continue from last time, looking at the games where white starts with d4. So in the previous video we sort of looked at the Polish defense, where black plays b5 on the first move, but today we're going to look at d4 e5, the so-called Englund Gambit. And we're going to look at the different responses by white, three different types of play. They all start in the same position, but they change quite a lot as we go through. So without further ado, let's see. The first game I bring to you is played between Horst Albep with the white pieces and Max Mueller with the black pieces, and it was played in Germany in the town called Bremen in 1982. And just to remind you, these games, all of the games that I show in this playlist are master games, so between titled players, international masters, grandmasters, and so on. So very, very prepared players, very strong players. So let's see how this game started. As I said, starting with d4 on the first move, then we have e5 on the second move. And usually with any type of gambit, it is best refuted by accepting it. So here white accepts the pawn, and black plays knight to c6, immediately attacking this pawn, and white defends the pawn for the moment. But the purpose of this move is not so much to defend the pawn, but just to continue developing. You're probably going to give up this pawn and just enjoy a better developed position, because to capture the pawn, so this is what black does. Plays queen to e7 and targets this pawn directly. There are a few ways you can defend this pawn. You can defend the pawn like this, and this will happen in one of the games. But here white just simply played knight to c3, and white is basically saying, okay, if you capture this pawn, you spend 2 moves, whereas I spent 1 move developing the knight and the second move developing this knight. So I am better developed because you're wasting a tempo by moving the same piece twice in the opening, something that chess principles tells us you shouldn't do. And here black just happily captures the pawn, because this is probably what the strategy was from Mr. Mueller for this game. He wanted to avoid opening mistakes. He wanted an equal position. Yes, he will be down 1 tempo, but maybe avoiding a preparation of another player was worth it. And here white just decides not to capture the knight, but actually to attack the queen, because now if you move the queen, don't forget you're also attacking this pawn with a fork. So if black was to move the queen, let's say here, well, then the knight is hanging. Instead of this, to avoid all the complications, black just captures with check. There is no problem. You're not losing your queen because the king is in check. So g takes on f3, and now black plays queen to c5, defending this pawn and also attacking the knight. And here white just defends the knight with e4. Well, I was going to say, you can't really kick away the knight, because remember, the queen is protecting the square, and if you were to push the pawn, the queen would no longer be protecting the square, and you would be just losing an exchange at least. And who knows, maybe you would be able to capture the knight here, maybe you wouldn't. So of course black just simply played knight to f6, and white is in a better position, is in a much better position, that even though the material is completely equal on the board, there really isn't anything white can do. This is actually a big mistake. I'm sorry I didn't say this straight away. So this position is already better for white, but this move makes the position much worse for black, and I'm just going to give you a couple of seconds to try and figure out why that is the case. So if you would like to take a moment to pause the video and find the move here. Alright, so the move that you have to see in order to really take full advantage of this position is just b4. Sorry about that. You attack the queen, and if the queen ever moves defense of this square, the knight always has a jump. And of course, you can't take the knight, you just lose the queen here. So black decided to go back with the queen, of course, but now b5. The bishop is nicely protecting the pawn, and there aren't really all that many squares the white queen can go to. Of course, if you go here, well, now I just even pick up your queen, because this would be a fork on the king and the queen. And this square, well, this square is open. You can't go to this square because of the bishop. You can't go to this square because of the knight. Of course, you can't go here. You can't go here because of the knight. So really, the only square you have available to this queen is exactly what white plays. So white just goes back to queen to c5, but now bishop to e3 comes. And there is no way to remain on this file, on the c file, to keep protecting this pawn. And actually, the best move for white is queen to a3. But of course, here black is completely losing, because you just play knight takes on c7 with check, and you're going to pick up this rook here, and black is completely winning. So the best move for black here is just king to d8, and then you just take the rook. There really isn't anything good that black can do. The best move apparently here in this position is d5, but white is just going to reply with b6, trying to create an outpost square for the knight to bring it back so that there is no captures. And if you capture this pawn, I will just recapture with the knight. It's protected, and white is just up a couple of pawns and the rook. But this is what the best plays gives. And just to show the mistake where it really happened, so this is already a better position for white, and even after this, and here you have to play something like king to d8 to really so this is what the engine says. The engine says that this is the best move that black can play, and it's just trying to defend this pawn, not to allow knight taking with check, because this is already very dangerous. But black misses this, tries to just exchange the knights, even at the cost of ruining a pawn structure, but it's a little too late. This is a big mistake, and it gives just too much play for white, and white just plays b4, and I didn't mention this earlier. I hope you can see this. Of course, you can't take the pawn because the knight is covering this square. So what ended up happening is the following, and white just took a pawn, and in the real game black resigned here because the player saw that there's really nothing that they can do. And just to illustrate why, according to the engine, these are the best moves, and there is nothing for white. There's nothing for black to do. White is completely winning. And yeah, just always be careful when you play the Englund Gambit. Always be careful about bringing your queen out too early, because it can often be targeted even with simple pawn moves like this, and really kicked away. So just always be careful of that. But moving on to the next game, we have Jacov Zilberman with the white pieces against Viktor Honisch with black pieces. And this game happened in Nc3, Ukraine. Actually, Ukraine is where I'm from, so it's always cool to see these games played from the places that you know and you've been to. But this game happened in 1930, and the beginning of the game is exactly the same as in the previous game. So this is against the Englund Gambit. So the Englund Gambit is usually goes like this. This is a very standard position for the Englund Gambit, and as I mentioned in the previous game, we saw this move, but here white decided to play bishop to f4. And I've actually played on the black side of the board many times with this in bullet games, and I really liked seeing this move. but only for a specific reason. You play queen to b4 check here, and you're attacking the bishop and the king at the same time. But you're not winning a piece here. So the best response by white is actually just to go back and allow the capture of this pawn. So this is exactly what black does. I've done this many times with white, but this position is actually, there's one move that makes this position better for white and not for black, even though it looks like everything is crumbling here. So what I always hope for when I play this with black is I hope for the move that happened in this game. This is a very standard trap, and white thinks that everything is completely fine and plays bishop to c3, attacking the queen, putting this bishop on a very nice diagonal and saying, okay, you have to now move your queen. There aren't many places you can move your queen safely, and I will just enjoy a slightly better position with better activity at the cost of one pawn. But actually this is completely losing for white for one specific move, and of course that is bishop to b4. The move is completely losing because now this bishop is pinned. You can't take the queen because the white would be in check, and that's an illegal move. So here what would have to happen, the best response, or rather what white played in the game is white played queen to d2, but this is completely losing because you can just simply take the bishop, and you're losing your queen or you're losing the knight and the rook, because you're losing a queen if you say play a silly move, if you just go here and then just takes with check, or if you decide to give to take with the queen and say, okay, the rook is protected, the rook protects the knight, queen to c1 is just checkmate. There is nowhere for the king to go. So of course you can't take with the queen, and if you take with the knight, then simply queen 2 takes the rook on a1 with check, and you have to maybe block with the knight. So this is probably the best move. So you're not losing a knight, but you're up a rook in a completely winning position. But always be careful with capturing this queen, because even though this is a horrible blunder, and because it runs into bishop to b4, pinning the bishop, if white just plays knight to c3, white is actually in a better position. White the engine evaluation is plus 2.3 for white. It is not entirely clear to me why this is better. I mean, you have lost a pawn, but basically look at the development. This bishop has moved, this knight has moved and is developed, this knight is developed, this pawn is protected, this rook is coming to b1 and going to attack the queen, so you're going to develop your rook with tempo. And look at black's pieces. All the pieces are underdeveloped. You need at least 3 moves to castle kingside, and you need 1, 2, 3 moves, let's say, to castle queenside as well. So you're a long way away from castling, and rook to b1 is coming, maybe this, and you open your bishop to castle, and you just enjoy a better position. You're going to attack undeveloped black pieces, and you're going to be better. So let's just look again at this line. Again, the very standard position of the Englund Gambit. And then here white plays bishop to b4. So the best move for black here is actually d6. You don't even want to go here and capture this pawn, because as we said, white just played knight to c3 after playing d2, and white is in a better position. But after this move and this, white decided to play bishop to c3, and this is what you hope for. As I said, when you play the Englund Gambit, this is what I used to hope for. I've trapped a lot of people with this, but many times people just played, sorry about that, people just played this against me, and I didn't really know what to do, to be honest. So okay, let's move on to the last game of today. and this game was played in Paris, of course in France, in 1989, and the player with the white pieces is Charles Burgisser, and the player with the black pieces is Vardan, and I'm not even going to try. Oh, actually, I see that the interface isn't updating. Sorry about that. So the interface isn't updating the players' names for some reason, which is actually very, very annoying. Let me see if I can fix that. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that. So yes, as I said, we have Charles Burgisser with the white pieces and Vardan. The whole name doesn't even fit into this card, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. I'm sorry. Let's just get straight into the game. Some names are just unpronounceable to me. So again, we have a standard End Gambit position on the board, and in this position, white takes another different approach to this position. It just plays G3. G3 just says, okay, capture my pawn, I'm going to probably capture back and just develop, or maybe I'll just develop straight away, and if you capture here, then I will capture. But black decides to continue developing as well. I put a fin kettled his bishop here to contest the long diagonal over here. White just keeps developing with knight c3, so black decides to capture. White captures to avoid complications, and here, even though this knight is hanging, black decided, okay, I'm going to continue developing. I always have time to capture this bishop, and I'm attacking the rook here in the corner as well. So if you protect your knight, I'm just going to capture your rook. So black plays bishop to h3, just completely ignoring, just giving up the rook. But if you were to take the rook, then something like this would happen. You would give a check, and you're just getting completely annihilated here. This is a check. I'm attacking your rook, I'm attacking your bishop. You don't have time to capture my knight. Everything is great here. So the best move is king to c8 in this position, and this isn't the best move actually. The best move is to capture the bishop, because remember, this knight, the black didn't capture this knight right away. So if black is to move the rook, you just bring back the knight, and you're up, what? You're up 2 pawns really, or rather you're up an exchange, which is equivalent to 2 pawns, but you're up an exchange in this variation. So after this move and this move, black decided to just simply castle. White says, okay, if you protect your rook now, I'm going to recapture my knight and everything is going to be fine. And in this position, black played bishop to white played bishop to f4, just defending and protecting the knight. So black just took the rook in the corner, and black is saying, okay, now I'm protecting this pawn with my rook, with my queen, and with my king, and you don't have anything. And the engine says white has +5.5, just in a completely dominating position, even though for the moment you are down an exchange as white. Your position is so good that it's worth it. In this position, white plays pawn to e4, which is protected by the knight, which says, okay, I have now trapped your bishop here, because if you go here, I'll just recapture, and everything is perfectly defended in my position. I'm going to maybe move my queen up, threatening this, and also castle. So black played knight to f6, just continuing developing, hoping to have time to bring pieces back and maybe even win this pawn here. Because if white isn't careful and plays something silly, then black will be able to bring the bishop back and enjoy a better position being up in exchange. So here white defends this pawn and threatens queen to a6 with check. So now of course you can't take this pawn because I'll recapture, and then if you capture I'm playing the queen, and you will not be able to win back the knight. Yes, the knight is pinned, you won't be able to move it, but remember the queen is here, the queen was just going to checkmate, so you won't have time to win the piece. But here black played g5, and g5 is a very big mistake. So apparently the best move in this position is actually king to b7. Don't ask me why, this position is completely crazy. I guess you want to move your king here to not allow queen a6 with check, because you would just capture the queen here. So I think that is the point of the move, but who would see this move really? But as I said, black played g5, which is a big mistake and allows white to go queen a6 with check. And the only move for black is to go to king to b7, king to b8, sorry. And now white just takes this pawn. This pawn is actually hanging, even though it doesn't seem like it, because if you imagine, if this pawn wasn't, sorry about that, if this pawn wasn't here, this would pick up the queen. So a very creative move, you just capture the pawn and you say, okay, if queen captures, I just win the queen, and if rook captures, I am actually going to checkmate you. Because if this happens, then this is a 4 checkmate in 2. You play knight to c6 with check. The only move here is king to a8. And even though you could capture the queen, this is just checkmate. So you're just getting checkmated if you allow this. So the best position for white actually in this position is bishop takes on e4, because now you can't play this. I'll just take, and if you take, actually wait, how are you defending checkmate if you do this? Okay, you have, okay, so if you do this now in hopes that, that's what it is, right? Sorry, I checked this. If you play this, this is actually a losing move, because there is one move for black that saves the day, and that's because the king is still in the center of the board. You pick up the knight, and this won't be checkmate, because this will not happen, because this is a discovered check on the king. So you're actually going to even going to lose your bishop, and you're in a completely losing position. So instead of this, what white should do is play knight takes on e4, because now whatever black plays, if you just recapture the knight, now I play this, and this will be checkmate regardless of what you do, or I will win your queen. So yeah, so in this position, king b7 is a must to prevent the queen from infiltrating, but black was a little too late and played g5, trying to kick away this bishop and win the knight. But this gives white a bit too much, and white just happily wins the game. So yeah, after knight takes on e4, black resigned, and a very nice sort of trap in the Englund Gambit. I hope you enjoyed this video on the Englund Gambit. People have played this against me many times, and I've often struggled to really punish it. But if you take anything away from these 3 games, that's that you don't need to defend. In Englund Gambit, when something like this happens and you capture, you really don't need to defend this pawn. The whole idea behind this is to take the opponent out of preparation, win back this pawn, and have an equal position. But if you just continue developing with a multitude of moves, from this video we've seen that this is a fine move, this is a fine move, and this is a fine move for white. Don't try to hold on to this pawn. It's basically, if you take just one thing away from today, it is that don't try to defend the pawn e5 when somebody plays the Englund Gambit against you. Alright, so if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much, and until the next one.